Hello, welcome to the Random Recipe Project. Today, the random numbers selected a recipe from one of my culinary heroes, Julia Child. She's somebody I've been watching cook since I was a kid. This is from her baking series, and the book is Baking with Julia. The recipe that was selected is bagels. I'm not a big bagel person. Mostly because I grew up in the Midwest. You can find them, I'm sure, but generally when someone would offer me a bagel, they'd be dry and chewy and tough. And I just never really understood why people would rave about bagels. Julia says these bagels are not heavy or stretchy or chewy, and so they might be the kind of bagels that I like. I'm eager to try them out. Let's take a look at the ingredients. There's not many. For the dough itself, we've got some high gluten flour. She says if you can't find a high gluten flour, that you can just make do with a bread flour or an unbleached all-purpose flour. Tepid water, it's just above room temperature. A little bit of sugar, a little bit of yeast, some salt and pepper, some vegetable shortening, and a little bit of melted butter. There's a couple other ingredients that we'll use tomorrow. First, we're going to make the dough, and it's going to rise and then chill overnight in the refrigerator. Tomorrow, we're going to boil them and then bake them. And during that process, there's a few additional ingredients that we'll use. In the water that we're going to boil the bagels in, we'll put some sugar and a little bit of baking soda. And then to top the bagels, I haven't decided exactly, but they're going to get an egg wash with just the egg white. And then I do have a few things that I think would be good. I've got some lemon peel, and then of course some sesame seeds and some poppy seeds. This recipe only makes 10 bagels, but I might just make a few of each of the different toppings just to try them out. The first thing we need to do is get our yeast started. I've got the yeast, I'll put it in a small bowl, give it just a pinch of sugar, and then about a quarter cup of our water. I'll just set this aside, give them a few minutes to wake up while I start mixing everything else. Now into a large bowl, we'll put in the water, the rest of the sugar, the black pepper. Now the pepper was optional, and I do like the taste of black pepper. I don't know that I've ever had it inside a bagel, but it seems like it could be good, so we'll put that in. Salt, the shortening, our yeast, and then now bit by bit we will add in the flour. And she says we're going to keep adding the flour until we have a soft, sticky dough that is difficult to stir. And of course, it's going to vary from day to day, but she says it'll be about 6 cups. I could be doing this in my stand mixer. She does give instructions on how to make it that way, but I thought it would be more fun to do by hand. It is getting harder to mix with a wooden spoon. I think it's going to be easier for me if I just get in there with my hands. She says the dough is going to be soft and sticky, and not to worry about that. That's just how it's supposed to be. But then we'll be kneading it for about 5 to 6 minutes, adding a little bit of flour and just enough to keep it from sticking to my hands. But it's still going to be a soft dough. I'm just going to knead it right here in the bowl. It's a big wide bowl. Instead of turning it out onto a board, I can just do everything right in here. So, 5 or 6 minutes. Here we go. Now, as I'm doing this, at first the dough kind of tightened up and it became harder and harder to knead there at the beginning. But now it's starting to loosen up again. Over the next couple minutes, it's going to smooth out and relax and get stretchy, kind of become elastic. That's what we're looking for. As it's loosening up, it's kind of absorbing the moisture that's in there. It might get a little sticky. And I've got some flour sitting here on the side that I can just add to it as I need. It's been about 4 minutes. We'll give it another minute or two. There we go. It's been 6 minutes. It's very soft, very smooth. It's stretchy. I love the smell of the black pepper coming up from it. All right, now we are going to transfer it into another bowl so it can rise. Got one sitting here, just the bowl from my stand mixer. And we want to butter the bowl. Then we form our dough into a ball and just plop that right in and butter the top of the dough. Then cover the bowl with buttered plastic wrap. And then that I'm going to cover with a towel. It's been sitting here for an hour, so let's take a look. It's inflated quite a bit. It's nice and fluffy. All we need to do is punch this down to deflate it, then form it back into a ball, and it needs to go into the refrigerator. She wants us to chill it for at least 4 hours or overnight. It's already getting late here, so I'm going to put it in overnight. It's a new day. The dough has been in the refrigerator all night. It's puffed up quite a bit, but we're going to punch it down and we're going to work in batches. So the first thing we'll need to do is cut it in half. To give us the greatest chance of success, I'll weigh this out and be a bit more precise when I cut this into bits. Punch it down. Coating the outside edges just a little bit so it won't stick as we work with it. And first thing I'll do is weigh the chunk. Okay, 1692 grams, so we'll need about 845, 846 to be precise. Okay, 829, pretty close. 844. All right, there we go. So half of it, I'll just put right back in the fridge. We'll get back to it in a few minutes. So this recipe makes 10 bagels, and we're going to just cook 5 at a time. So we're going to turn this chunk into 5 equal pieces of dough. It'd be a lot easier if we were dividing this into fourths or something, but fifths, I don't know how to do that by eye. Perfect. So there's a lot of timing to get right with this. We don't want the dough to dry out, apparently. We're going to work with one at a time, keep some of it refrigerated, keep others under towels. I've got some sheet pans sitting off to the side here, one with a towel on it, and the second with a floured towel. We're going to use those later. So at this point, we're going to focus on making the rings. Stretch them and pinch the bottoms, and keep doing that until we have a nice, dense, smooth ball of dough. Pinch it nice and tight. Put the seam side down and plunge my thumb down into it. And then pick it up and just sort of stretch until I break through. And then just keep shaping the dough, just stretching, hooking it over my thumb and forefinger, and just pull and stretch. And she says to do that until the hole in the middle is about 2 to 2.5 inches in diameter. And she says it's going to look more like a ring in a ring toss game than a bagel. And that's the way it's supposed to be. It's going to puff up as we cook them. We don't want them to look like bagels now, because then they won't have a chance to expand and cook through. And I'm doing it gently. I don't want it to break, and I'm getting close to it breaking here on this edge. My seam was super tight there. So I'm going to try to be careful. Okay, it looks like 2.5 inches. And this is going to go off to the side here on a sheet pan with a floured towel. And it's got enough room for the 5 that we're going to be working with now. So, second one. There's definitely a nice side and a rough side. And she says to put them rough side down. There we have 5 bagels. The next step is boiling the dough. So I'm going to put a pan here, put some water in it. She doesn't say how much, but she does say we're going to add a 1/4 cup sugar and a teaspoon of baking soda. Hopefully the concentration doesn't matter since she didn't tell us how much water to start with. She says we don't want to crowd them, do them in batches if we need to. So we're going to put them in the water and she says they'll sink to the bottom. When they rise up to the top, then we'll boil them for another 1.5 to 2 minutes per side. All right, 1.5 minutes. Carefully turn them over. And another 1.5 to 2 minutes on this side. Now we take them and put them onto a baking tray with a towel, and we want to put the nicest side up. Okay. Put in our remaining 2. The next step is baking them, and she says we'll want to do this kind of quickly so they don't stick to the towel that they're sitting on. I could be baking these right on a sheet pan. I've got a baking stone. It's actually a steel, a big chunk of steel in my oven that I use when I make bread, and she's got directions for that. So that's what we'll do. I've got my peel here, and I've dusted it with cornmeal and poppy seeds. So I'm going to take our boiled bagels and carefully peel them off the towel, set them on our pizza peel. Earlier, I mixed up some egg whites and a little bit of water, and we're going to brush those over the top. She says to do it a little carefully so it doesn't drip down, because it'll act like a glue onto the peel, and then to give it 2 coats. So go around again. The egg white is nice and smooth. I mixed it with a little bit of water, and then she had me run it through a sieve to remove any of the kind of the stringy bits of egg white, so I don't need to worry about those glopping up the tops of the bagels. Okay, now it's time to top them. We're going to do, of course, another batch of 5. So I've got some toppings to do 2 of each different kind of topping. I shredded some Asiago cheese, so we'll put that over the top of 2 of them. I'm not much of a bagel person, as I said, but my partner is, and she really likes hers with the Asiago. And then I've got some poppy seeds. And then this last one we'll do with sesame seeds. And then the next batch I'll do 1 more with sesame. I've got lemon peel, and then everything seasoning for the last 2. Next, we need to get them into the oven. So I've got the oven set to 500 degrees. I've got some water with ice in it, and we're going to just throw that right onto the bottom of the oven, just right on the floor. And then we turn the oven down to 450, and they stay in there for 25 minutes. Almost 24 hours later, we've got 10 bagels. Perhaps a little dark. Maybe they overbaked a little bit. We'll find out here in a moment when I cut into them. In the cookbook, there's a color picture of a poppy seed bagel. It's got a layer of cream cheese and chives. So I've got that here as well. I'm going to take this bagel right here. It's crusty. It feels like it's soft. It's going to be soft in the middle. So I'll slice this and spread it with the cream cheese and the chives, and we'll give it a taste. Okay, here it is sliced. It's got a good open crumb, nice and soft. So it's got a crispy crust, but it doesn't seem to be overbaked in the middle. Let's try it out. That was very tasty. Great flavor. Poppy seeds were great. It looked dark, but it didn't taste burnt. It does have a substantial crust, kind of like a hard roll or a good crunchy baguette. And the inside was soft and pillowy, not at all chewy or stretchy. The things that I don't like about bagels generally, this did not have. If I were to make these again, I'd just take a few minutes off the bake time. I don't know if it's because I use the steel in the oven. It works a little bit better for pizzas to get a nice crispy crust than just a pizza stone. It's a nice even temperature throughout. It holds onto the heat. I think that might have been why these have such a crust on them. I'm just not much of a bagel person. I'm sure we'll eat these in the household. I might give some away to friends. And I can see myself making more for special occasions, brunches, those sorts of things. I might make some. I never would have chosen to make these on my own, so I'm glad they came up as a random recipe so that I could try out the process, record myself making them, and share the results with you. I really had no idea how they would turn out. And these are quite good. Hope you join me next time. Whatever random recipe comes up, I'm sure we'll have fun making it. Until next time, bye-bye.